I would like to call to order the Mishawaka City Council meeting for Monday, May 5th, 2025. Due to unforeseen circumstances, we will go to a 10-minute recess right away. Thank you.
We will reconvene the regular meeting of the Mishawaka Common Council for Monday, May 5th, 2025. Good evening, and thank you for your patience, everyone. Welcome to those of you who are in attendance. It's a small select group, but if you would, please take a moment and check your cell phone to make sure that you have placed it on silent or vibrate. For those of you participating remotely, we welcome you as well. Members of the public are asked to place their microphone on mute during the meeting. At the appropriate point in the public hearing, I will invite the public to unmute their microphone for purposes of submitting such comments as they may wish to make one person at a time. All persons wishing to make public comments will be asked to first state their name and address for the record, and after completing the comment, members of the public are once again asked to place their microphone on mute, and we thank you all for your cooperation with us this evening. With that, if you would, please join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Hazen?
Here.
Mrs. Volker?
Here.
Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Benicki?
Here.
Mr. Emmons?
Here.
Ms. Hahn?
Here.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Here.
Mr. Violi?
Here.
Mr. Hixenbaugh?
Here.
All are present in the chambers.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of April 28th, 2025. Are there any additions or corrections? Then hearing none, they'll stand approved as received from the clerk's office. This evening, due to a lack of any other action items or information items, we'll move straight to ordinances on second reading.
Proposed ordinance number 2024-35 as amended, and ordinance amending Chapter 137 of the Municipal Code of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana, as from time to time amended, commonly known as the zoning ordinance of the City of Mishawaka, Indiana. This is the wellhead protection land use restrictions.
Thank you. May we have the committee report, please?
Yes, Mr. President. To the members of the Common Council of the City of Mishawaka, your Committee on Land Use Planning, to whom was referred the matter of proposed ordinance number 2024-35AA, report that they have examined said matter and that their opinion should be adopted. This is signed by the majority of members present, and I move for its acceptance.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the committee report. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. With that, we'll move into second reading and public hearing on proposed ordinance 2024-35 as amended. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. Ken Prince, Director of Planning and Community Development for the city. Since we did have a special meeting this item, I'm just going to do highlights this evening. So as you may recall, at the time that we reviewed the convenience store at Fur and Douglas, there were numerous discussions regarding the need to have more education, better available maps, and potentially ordinance modifications that better regulate land uses surrounding the city well fields. Multiple members of the administration and council members identified a need and desire for an ordinance to both increase and formally codify restrictions. This is that ordinance. Specifically, in terms of education, we've done a lot, including the informational session. We also have the time of travel maps that are now readily accessible to the public that can be viewed readily on the city's website through GIS. And as an overall summary, there are 4 current city well fields: Division, Gumwood, Virgil, and Judy Creek. And the Gumwood well field, as indicated previously, is planned to be closed by 2026. We have a maintenance issue we're currently working through with the contractor that built the tower out there, and barring needing to drain the tower for that fix, that well field should go away within the next year. As a refresher, the wellhead protection provisions are different than the county's wellhead provisions. So the wellhead protection provisions of the county are regulating wells. They aren't regulating land uses. So as we discussed at the informational meeting, currently wells can go as close as 200 feet to underground tanks and other uses that we would consider potentially contaminants for the well field. And we feel from a land use perspective, it's better to regulate that and to have an overlay district that further separates them. So the city's water system itself is a public water system subject to the continued environmental rule changes by the federal government. This includes increased standards for public water quality where private wells are not regulated in the same way. The ongoing environmental rule changes by the federal government include substances such as lead, copper, PFAS, arsenic, manganese, and with ever-changing standards for public water, the vulnerability for groundwater infiltration, the higher cost of treatment and filtration, and the potential that exists to force the closure of wells and well field from contamination make it prudent to further regulate the significant threats to groundwater, and to do it from a land use perspective rather than just from a well perspective. To aid in consistency between ordinances, the proposed land use modifications incorporate much of the county ordinance language that has been expanded and clarified for the purposes of regulating the storage, distribution of chemicals, materials, uses, and storage methods that are potential threats to groundwater. The proposed ordinance is written specifically to regulate commercial bulk storage and distribution of chemicals, materials, and storage methods, and the point is to make a regulatory distinction between commercial usage and incidental personal use, both at the commercial and residential level. The types of materials to be regulated include all petroleum products, antifreeze, solvents, inks, pigments, corrosion, rust preventative solutions, sanitizers, pesticides, acids, road salt. We also have a catch-all provision for any other regulated substance in a quantity sufficient to present a reasonable likelihood that it is or will to damage groundwater or surface water, or stored and transferred or used in a manner not in compliance with federal, state, or local requirements. This also includes other land uses such as drum storage areas, waste piles, waste material, rail or truck loading or transfer areas, auto salvage facilities. It also includes additional restrictions on underground storage tanks. Specifically, this city is only looking to regulate the commercial and the kind of the high volume point source pollution points. So again, we completely understand that there is a use at a residential level that would be permitted. So there are a number of exemptions, including farm or residential tanks, 185 gallons or less, tanks used for storing of heating oil, for consumptive use on the premises where they're stored, septic tanks as regulated by the health department, pipeline facilities as regulated by various codes, surface impoundment, stormwater or wastewater collection systems, and storage tanks in an underground area such as a basement, cellar, where the storage tank is situated upon or above the surface of the floor. So essentially, when you think of the basement tanks, that's what it's referring to. Within the ordinance, we also regulate two different areas. One is the 1-year time of travel, the second is the 5-year time of travel. The uses that I just referenced would be prohibited within the 1-year time of travel, and then within the 5-year time of travel would be handled as a conditional use. So an item that we talked about today is the reason for the conditional use, and by state law, we are required to map the 1-year, the 5-year, and the 10-year time of travel when we submit those. And we, as we discussed at our informational meeting, we didn't have a 2-year time of travel, and our division manager, Dave Majeski, felt like it should be the 5-year standard, and we said, no, that's probably too much. So we brought that back, and because we don't have a 2-year standard, we don't have a 3-year standard, we went with the 5-year, but would permit it by conditional use. That way, for the example was used with a gas station of monitoring wells. Let's say, for example, you wanted something in the between the 1-year and the 5-year time of travel, and there were concerns about it. You could have the company install their own monitoring wells and submit reporting to the city regarding potential leaks in that location. Adding conditions, we think, is an important component for that transition area between the 1-year and 5-year time of travel. That basically outlines the regulations involved. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. We've discussed this previously, so again, pepper me with questions, but I didn't feel the need to present more than that.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Prince? Mrs. Volker?
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Prince. I just have a couple, and they're little details.
Of course.
So no big deal, but I wanted to understand, so I think I read somewhere in the staff report that that the city will not use road salt. Am I understanding that correctly?
No,
within
we
the
actually
1 year?
will use road salt.
You
It's very
will use-
important for public safety to use
Okay.
road salt.
So you
What we
will
will not
use-
do is store road salt.
Okay.
Within that area.
Okay, good, I feel better about that. And then I was just curious about the, kind of the process for conditional uses. So if I come to the city and I want to build some kind of a, something, let's just say a gas station, within the, the 5-year time of travel, would it first go to the Board of Zoning Appeals? What's the process?
There's very few properties that have existing zoning that would allow a gas station, so more than likely it would be at the same time applying for a change in zoning, potentially annexation of the property, and then a conditional use at the same time. So it would go both before the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. And like in similar cases, instead of, even though they're staggered, normally on your agendas, we'd probably ask them to be heard at the same time. So you could consider the zoning and the conditional use at the same time.
Okay, and then it would come to the council.
Correct, on
Okay.
both counts.
Okay, terrific, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. And I was just curious from an educational standpoint, when we talked about, as part of this process, educating the community, and I know we had a meeting, and I know that members of the Penn family were here. How did we didn't send any, you know how when we've got a project in the city, we send a letter out to people within 300 feet of the project, Cedar Street Bridge as an example. Did we do anything like that other than, to notify, thinking specifically of businesses that are currently located or property owners that are currently located in the 5-year time of travel?
We did not. So as we discussed at the informational meeting, I think the only area that came up that I thought would be impacted would be the Home Street kind of industrial area that's north of Jefferson. I'm not aware of any of those activities that currently occurs, but that would provide some further limitation on that property. But we did not provide any notice to those
Okay.
specifically.
Thank
Again, these areas are very well defined, so they're mostly, when we think of the two that are with golf courses, they're mostly consumed by the golf course, particularly within the 1-year time of travel. The other thing I'll note is the Home Street, we didn't prohibit any uses in there. It would merely require them to apply for conditional use.
Right.
They wouldn't be prohibited. It is another step to go through, and a completely, in my mind, a prudent one, given the potential effects on groundwater.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ken.
Mr. Violi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pertaining just to the C10 zoning, between the 1-year time of travel and the 5-year time of travel, are there any that you know of, any C10 parcels of land, not grandfathered, I'm not talking about if there's a gas station already there, I'm talking about empty parcels of land that have already been granted C10 sometime in the past in that 1 to 5 year, in any of these areas, in any of the 3 areas?
In all 3 well fields, there is no vacant C10 property except for the Casey site, which is actually within the 1-year time of travel. That is the only
That's the only
vacant
one.
C10 property that is out there.
And that one's been grandfathered?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Assuming you were to adopt this, it would be grandfathered by this. Correct.
Oh, right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Carroll.
Yeah, Mr. President, Ken, quick question. If, say, on Home Street, it came to be that somebody was in violation of this and nobody knew, what's enforcement look like from the city's perspective to say, hey, we can't do this? Is this a code violation process? Is this a,
No, it's a zoning violation. It would be through my department.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Prince? Ken, thank you once again for the work that you've done on this and your openness to working with us on the amendments throughout the process.
Of course.
Very much appreciated. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? If you would, please come forward. Then is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone with us this evening who wishes to speak in opposition? Please come forward. And is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak in opposition? Are there any council members who wish to speak? Mr. Mamalenti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to take this time to, excuse me, say thank you to President Hixenball for working really closely with the council and in turn, working really closely with the mayor and Ken and his team. I know this was somewhat of a contentious topic when this first came up, so I think it just proves that we're able to work well with each other and find a middle ground and a great solution. And thank you on your side and our side as well, so thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Again, I want to echo Mr. Mamolendi's comments. I appreciate the fact that we identified a problem when we work together as we typically do. So thank you to all involved with that. I'm certainly in favor of this. I think it's in the best interest of Mishawaka, but I think that there are two components of this that we're going to have to keep front of mind as we move forward with the implementation of this ordinance. The first is in that area beyond 1 year but up to 5, that conditional use process that Mr. Prince described earlier. I think we need to approach that as an authentic process where we're open to the approval. If we're going to extend the 1-year prohibition to 5 years, then I think that we'd be working at cross purposes with the intent of this ordinance. So where appropriate, I think we need to consider on a case-by-case basis those conditional uses. And then the second thing I would say, and that this is true with regard to any new venture, any new piece of legislation that we pass, I think we need to be open to any modifications and revisions of this as we implement it to find out that there are some changes that need to be made. I'm not aware of any. I think that this was really well done by Mr. Prince, and again, I appreciate his willingness to consider some input on the part of the council, but I'm proud of this work product. I think it will serve the city, and I certainly will be in support of it this evening. Is there anything else? If not, then I call for the question.
Question.
Madam Clerk, would you please poll the council?
Mrs. Hazen?
No.
Mrs. Volker?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Mr. Benicki?
Yes.
Mr. Emmons?
Yes.
Ms. Hahn?
Yes.
Mr. Mamalenti?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Hicksonbaum?
Yes.
Proposed ordinance as amended passes 8-1.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move into privilege of the floor. Members of the public are invited to the podium to speak with respect to non-agenda items only under privilege of the floor. Seeing no one, is there anyone participating remotely who wishes to speak under privilege of the floor? Thank you. With that, we'll move into unfinished business, of which there is none. New business. Is there any new business to come before the council? Mr. Emmons.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick note here that the first district meeting this month has been changed from Thursday night to Wednesday night, the 14th, at St. Babel. On Thursday, we're going to have the presentation of the State of the City by Mayor Wood. And like I say, we're moving it because of the Police Honor Night, where we're honoring the veterans, or the police department people that were killed in the line of duty. And so we just moved it over to the 14th so that both meeting and the honor could be accomplished. So that is at the 14th at 7 o'clock at St. Babel's. And as usual, West End donuts will be served, and everybody is invited. And it'll be posted on Facebook. It'll be in the newspaper as a reminder of the meeting on the 14th. So look forward to having everybody there, and I look forward to having the mayor come and present the State of the City, even though it's going to be longer than the first. So we look forward to seeing you on the 14th. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other new business? Mr. Carroll.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The second district meeting will be this Thursday, May 8th, 7 p.m. at the Blair Hills Pool Complex, and everyone is invited.
Mr. Prince.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the administration, we'd like to ask for an informational meeting next Monday, starting at 5:45 p.m. This would allow for an hour to discuss a payment in lieu of taxes proposal by a low-income senior housing project proposed off of Douglas Road. So the idea is to learn about payment in lieu of taxes and what they are specifically proposing.
Thank you. Unless there's any objection, then we'll go ahead and schedule that meeting for next Monday at 5:45. Thank you, sir. Any other new business to come before the council? If not, then a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.